Hello, everybody. It's your favorite YouTuber, austonholleman, and I have another social topic for you guys today that is a problem around the world, but especially on the continent of Africa here. And I have Francoise here that will be presenting her expertise on skin bleaching on the continent of Africa and how it affects Africans mentally, physically, especially physically. A lot of y'all don't know about the physical effects, especially when I did my research on this topic. So without further ado, could you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure. Hello, my name is Françoise Mbabazi. I'm originally from Rwanda. I was born and raised in Uganda. I call myself a global citizen of the world,
Hmm.
and then spent most of my life literally in the U.S. And so
Where in the
um,
U.S.?
in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
I went to college in Arizona State. And then soon after that, I moved to Colorado and I spent 24 years there. So I just came back here almost 2 years now. And yeah, I am a mother and I'm an African woman and very proudly so. And I'm so glad to be back on the continent.
All right. So can you tell us what got you into, or what exactly do you do that's related to skin bleaching and the issues with that?
Yeah, so I am a gender kind of professional.
Hmm.
And growing up in Africa, I grew up in Uganda, and where actually this issue that I work on of colorism, skin bleaching, was very dire. And so I grew up and watching I grew up in a family of different skin tones. And I just started observing and seeing the color differentials take impact in our lives, even at home. And so I didn't know what it was at a very young age. But I know that one of my sisters, who is a darker skin girl, would grow up resenting herself because she didn't think she was beautiful enough. She didn't think she didn't think she would ever be successful. And so what's the point of going to school? And so my passion was really I aspired to go to school and to be the voice for women and girls my age at that time. And so gender really brings me to this work, and my travel around the world and raising a young Black girl
Hmm.
really, and the racism and discriminatory acts that I've observed over time and over the years here on the continent and in Western traditions have led me to do the work that I do.
So one thing that you brought up was that you said your sister would begin to resent herself. And I used to live in Brazil and Paraguay for a while. And one thing that I did notice, and I don't think skin bleaching I know it happens there, but I don't think it's as big there. But one thing that I did notice was that sometimes the women I would talk to down there would tell me that their classmates would say that their skin looked like shit, or their hair, their afros were ugly, things that made them actually resent themselves being Black. But I think here in Africa, the issue is that women actually go to the extreme of wanting to change their skin color. So you said would you say that's what made the issue deeply important to you, is how it hit your family closely and the people around you, rather than just seeing it on other people?
Well, I mean, I came to it. I arrived to it at a very early age because
Hmm.
of my own kind of setup at home. Um, but it got reinforced as I grew up and as I noticed what was happening. And the more I studied about it, because I did study more about what really leads people, because of my sister, my cousins, all those who would literally grab a rock and scrub themselves to look like my sister Rose, who was very light, and come out of the bathrooms bleeding.
Really?
Yeah, it was very sort of like that sort of internalized racism and self-hate kind of thing, and or a little bit of a confusion to me is like really lack of understanding. It's ignorance for the most part. But as I traveled the world and as I continued to see what was happening to the world, to various communities around the world. I haven't been around the world, but in communities I've been to in the US and most immigrant communities, has really led me to realize the impact of discriminatory acts, the
Hmm.
impact of slavery, the impact of globalization, social media, and also like really cultural indoctrinations and patriarchy. And it's a lot of issues that perpetuate skin bleaching, that I think we all have a role to play.
So
So yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but so you said that she would scrape herself with a rock.
My cousin would.
And
So my sister Rose, who was our firstborn, she's no longer with us, unfortunately.
uh
She was really light. You would think she probably was mixed or some, but none of us
like a
knows,
Creole looking.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 10 of us in my family, 7 girls and 3 boys, and one girl will come out to be darker than all of us, and then one other boy who was also one boy who is more darker that like her. But, she just really took it to a higher level, whereby us growing up, we sort of resented beauty because if you said I was beautiful, I didn't talk to you again because I felt like I was the reason why my sister would hate herself, and then my cousin would literally grab a rock, you know. And I saw this when I was 9 years of age. She would just go to the bathroom, scrub herself. And when she would come out, bleeding, we'll be like, what happened? She'll be like, oh, I just want to look like,
Really? So
I want
what
to
did
look
that
like
do to her long
Rose.
term though? To
I
her,
mean, my family, her parents discouraged her from doing it. But one thing I don't remember is my mom or any of her parents or any sort of grown-up person telling us we were beautiful just the way we were. I never heard that.
so you think they had the issue as well?
Oh yeah. It's a thing in the African context, unfortunately, whereby we tend to really feel like promote the issue of skin like lighter skin being sort of more beautiful, more successful. You will be successful because of how you look, because of
Mm-hmm.
the color of
Mm-hmm.
your skin. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that level of validation goes a long way. And also in the intimate relationships, darker skin girls don't feel like they would find a man of their dreams to actually take them for who they are. They think they will be going for lighter skin girls. So they perpetuate the issue.
I've noticed that in the research that I've done, of course, goes back to colonialism, and
Yeah.
just like they would mix Africans or indigenous people with Spanish or Portuguese people, because these were mainly the ones that did this the most, from my understanding. I mean, they did it in French and English colonies too, but the mulattoes or the mixed race would have a better shot at getting opportunities for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So they felt the need to do that. So, but I'm saying, what did it do physically to her in the long term for her to scrape her skin like that?
I mean, it just made her, it created some level of anxiety, I think, even depression on a longer term, mental health issue, whereby she feels like she's not enough, she doesn't fit in society. And so she literally isolated herself. My sister never went to college.
Well, I
She
mean,
didn't go to
physically,
school.
did it look like
I
she had
mean,
been burned?
yes. I mean, she
Wow.
even tried to enhance her skin color.
Hmm.
She tried to grab some products, whatever, to lighten her skin. And it didn't work because the more you do it, the worse it gets.
Hmm.
You really never get to it. And so physically, it just makes you, it burns her skin, it burned her
I
skin.
can imagine.
Yeah, and then it's just you couldn't be on the sun, it's like because your melanin levels are worn out. And so eventually she stopped from doing it because it wasn't giving her what she wanted, but, mentally destroyed her.
So usually it's the case with women. How often do you see men have the same mentality of wanting to lighten their skin? I know from my understanding, usually from what I've seen with men, it's that they want to whiten their blood by having a mixed race or, finding a mixed race woman. They want to have lighter babies, but I haven't seen as much skin bleaching, or is that not the case?
It depends, really. It depends on the country, in the country that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the Congo, for example, I mean, men and women alike, enhance their skin color or
Wow.
bleach their skin. Even here, I have seen a little bit of that. I've seen it also in South Africa. I've seen it in immigrant communities in the U.S. Whereby men and women alike, bleach their skin. It's still more so on the women's level.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's that issue of success,
Mm-hmm.
chasing your
Mm-hmm.
dreams. It's like everyone feels like for me to be successful, I must be lighter, close to whiteness. I must be, they feel validated in society. They feel like they need to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea of fitting in, whether you're a man or a woman, it really goes, it goes a long way, particularly the focus on young people. Because young people are manipulated at a very young age. If you're growing up in an environment like that and you feel like, oh, my hair is not straight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter is 12 years old now, but so when she was 2.5, she was asked by her young peers, "Are you black? Why are you black? Why does your skin look like pee and poo?"
In Denver.
This is in Denver, Colorado. And these are 2.5-year-olds.
Yeah. Wow.
I would hate to think that they're racist. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at that age, you can't be racist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, is it, and you've seen, the research that has been whereby they present different colors, of dolls and like which one is most beautiful, and majority of them being the blonde, the white, whatever, blue eyes being selected as the most beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You've also seen the paper bag, kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
research that has been done whereby, during slavery, that's what was used to
Mm-hmm.
actually select
Mm-hmm.
who works in the household, who goes on the, in the fields and all that kind of stuff. So as the more research I did and the more conversations I had with, doctors, pediatricians, who serve young people
Mm-hmm.
developmentally, the stories we are told from a very young age, 0 to 5, has a very fundamental, impact on who we would become.
So let me ask you this: since you've seen it from your parents, would you say that overall, in general, it is less common or more common now?
What is?
With wanting to whiten your skin bleaching, wanting to have lighter kids, do you think that's...
I think you have seen the time you've been here, you've seen, particularly in Kenya, let's talk about Kenya, there is a thirstiness for white people,
Mm-hmm.
particularly young girls just wanting to be with, even I feel like I can be comfortably saying, being with older men, older white men.
Mm-hmm.
Because they feel like, yes, culturally, when you grow up in a foundation that doesn't validate who you are, you're forever seeking for that validation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you grow up in a sort of poverty background, it also instills a poverty mindset, in my opinion.
Yes.
Whereby you feel like, if I can only get close to that white guy,
Mm-hmm.
I would be successful. He gives me a pass in society. It's the same thing in America. Sometimes you find Black men who say, I just want to be with clean girls. They don't think Black women, some of them, don't think Black women are clean. Clean means to them pure, and so whiteness is pure. It's sad to find brothers that talk like that, but I have interfaced with people like that who say, "Oh, I'm not dating Black girls. I prefer clean girls." Like, what do you mean? I'm dirty? You know?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that.
So it's really the notion that fits the stereotypes that white, lighter is better, is more beautiful, more successful. That and yes, culture.
Mm-hmm.
Culture, African culture has something big to do with it. And I think it all goes back to colonialism, whereby whiteness had to be the ideal kind of color,
Mm-hmm.
And so it has stayed with us for a very long time, in a way brainwashed. We have been brainwashed to believe that, we must fit those stereotypes for us to be successful, for us to be validated and be accepted in society.
Do you think in
So
the age of social media that it is helping or hurting the situation?
I think it's hurting. I think it's hurting, particularly hurting the young people.
Mm-hmm.
It's hurting the young people in that majority of the time, people that you see on platforms of influence, people you see in commercials, people that are elevated to the highest level are oftentimes lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, even our role models, some of them, particularly women, that our children grow up looking up to, are enhancing their skin color, chasing those high levels or positions in movies. If you did a research, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and typed women actors or actresses who have been asked their skin color, majority of them come up.
Can you give me 3 examples?
I don't want to name names.
Oh,
I don't want to name names, but anyone can do that, you guys. Just do actors and actresses that have enhanced their skin color. And the list goes on, and you'll be so disappointed.
so the fingertips is around your skin color. So based off what you told me, you believe that younger women or women in general would have a higher, or they're more likely to look up to someone lighter than her, or
Yes, they do.
okay.
They do look up to people who are lighter than
Mm-hmm.
they are. And like we were talking about, lighting, makeup, my lipstick might lead to something different. Maybe it brings out I don't know, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the thing about all these filters, really what it does is that, and the makeup and, all the expensive, aspects of the people that we look up to is like how they look today isn't how they're gonna look tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know? And so you consistently chase that and you never achieve that. You will never get there. And the more chemicals they put on their skin, the worse it
The skin
gets,
gets, yeah.
And so because of that washing off of the melanin, you know, the disappointment is so great that actually majority of the time you find people that are going permanently blind,
I've
that
heard
are
of that.
discoloring,
Mm-hmm.
that are organ failures,
I've heard of
kidney,
that.
liver failures, Alzheimer's, mental health, depression, anxiety, high blood pressure. Like there's 172 side effects of skin bleaching. You
Yeah.
know,
So one thing before you go off on that is
yeah, sorry.
I've noticed, no, because I have another question I'm going to ask on the subject you're going to.
Yeah.
Whenever I see, especially here in Africa, I've seen it sometimes in Latin America or pretty much everywhere in the world. Number one, I'm going to just give everybody a description of what I'm about to say is some women wear so much makeup, it looks like they have a birthday cake on their
Yeah.
face. And so whenever I see that, the first thing I think is, before I knew about the whole white worship thing, I was like, it's almost like you have a mental illness. Like you look like the Joker, like you're crazy. The Joker looks like he has a mental illness.
Absolutely.
And that's literally what you look like when you wear a birthday cake on your face. And then so when I started traveling around the world and I started seeing white worship, I was like, oh, they do have a mental illness.
Yes.
I mean, that doesn't mean you need to be in a straitjacket or you're mentally retarded. It just means your mind is sick.
Yeah.
Literally your mind is sick to the point where you will. I'll tell you a story. There was one girl I was meeting here in Nairobi. I must have been drunk. I was drinking when I met her, but I remember her being around my skin color, maybe even your skin color, a little lighter. And I went over to her house to go see her while her friend was there. And I remember saying, where is she at? She was sitting on the couch sleeping. I'm like, where is she at? And she's like, oh, it's her right there. And she started laughing. I think she was thinking the same thing I was thinking, like, oh, he caught you without your doll makeup on. And so I was like, she was literally about as dark as this table, but she was about as light as you in her Instagram photos.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's a mental illness to the point where it's a form of self-hatred.
Yeah.
Another story that I saw was that there was a woman that did so much skin bleaching.
Yeah.
I think she was in Nigeria. She had a baby. I guess she had to get her vagina stitched up, and the stitches wouldn't even hold because the skin had gotten so thin and damaged from the bleaching products. What are those bleaching products as well? What are those chemicals called that they use?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The stories are so horrendous, right? So I kind of want to go back a little bit to what you just said. Because for the longest time, I say, I'm not going to call my people. I'm not going to tell them that they hate themselves, you know, because half of the time, and most of the time, I want to believe that, oh, this is done because of lack of understanding. It's ignorance. It's lack of information. I feel like if people knew that it would cause you all these side effects, you probably won't do it. There's not enough information in the African context that really teaches you what it's like to be confident in your own self. You know, it's either a gift. I feel like I'm gifted because I don't know how I aspire
It has to
to
be a
have
gift.
that,
Yeah.
and so it is, however, to me, I asked girls like that, you know, when you are on your dying bed, are you still beautiful? Do you really think that you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I I am glad I did this because I still love me? I don't think so. And so really it's an injustice. To me, it's a human rights, issue, because people are to be educated about who they are. If you remember, I don't know about you, I was educated here in Uganda, in Kenya, in the US, and I have gone through different schools in the US trying to understand and to transform, really implement multiculturalism in various schools across Colorado. I have not come across a subject that talks about skin evolution and skin adaptation. I have not come across one. And so how are we to know how we evolved as a people? How are we to know the color differentials? How are we not to aspire when the majority of the world that is thriving is actually, white? It's full of white people. And those who are lighter than us leave us behind. Our men leave us behind. They aspire, majority of the time, they aspire to those who are lighter or even white girls. So to that girl who is, suffering from the injustice of wearing off her melanin, I would like to think that she is mentally unwell, but I would like to think that nobody told her, hey, this is not good for you. You got to stop. So to that, what are the chemicals? I just wanted to say that, I'm sorry. So the key chemicals that are part of this skin bleaching epidemic on a global scale is mercury.
I've heard of that.
That does not belong on a body. And then unregulated or, high levels of hydroquinone that is not provided by the doctor. You just buy off the shelf and go use to your satisfaction. The other one is steroids. I mean, if your knee is hurting, for example, I know this because my mom, have had some knee injuries and they are giving her some steroid injections to relieve some of her pain. But it's not something that you use on a longer period of time. Okay?
Yeah, like morphine.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the things that are being in these levels of mercury, hydroquinone, and steroids and everything are not labeled on the bottles that you buy. They're not include. The levels are so much more in the bottle than are indicated on those labels that you're buying. And so people do not understand, first of all, what are the impacts of all these chemicals? How are they ought to be used? And what is even hurting us more, especially in Africa? I know, disturbing, right? Sorry. What is hurting us more in Africa is actually, the black market.
Mm-hmm. I was about to bring up counterfeit products.
Yeah, the concoctions that are being done under the table, because again, even in countries like Rwanda that has put a ban on skin bleaching, on I think Ghana, and then Tanzania
Mm-hmm.
that has put a ban on Tanzania has put a ban on products that contain mercury and steroids, and I believe also hydroquinone. There is no regulatory processes that enforce these bans.
Of course not.
And
Yeah.
because of that, those under the table, black markets are happening. And those ones, I think, are worse because we don't know
It's
what's
like getting
in them.
surgery in an alley. Yeah.
And so the one thing that I've understood that happens in those black markets that they're using is, I don't know if you know Jik. Jik, the product they use to take stains off your clothes.
Bleach.
Bleach.
Yeah.
It's one of the elements they use.
That's one of the deadliest things you could put in your body.
And so that's why they're burning.
Yeah.
That's why it's like their skin, it's just, it really gives me pause,
Mm-hmm.
all that for what? And so mental health is such a big aspect of this work.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Because the minute you fail to understand, the minute you feel like you're not worthy, you're not validated in society, and you're seeking that validation from every person you meet, everything that happens to you that is not good is because of them, what happens to you? How can you move ahead in life?
Yeah.
You can't.
You'll do anything. You're desperate.
You're desperate.
Yeah.
So there's high levels again of anxiety, there's depression,
Mm-hmm.
there's skin dysphoria,
Mm-hmm.
or body dysphoria even. And then there's no one, and suicide. There've been some suicide cases among young people, whereby they just feel like, I can't fight no more. Whatever I've tried, it's not working, it's making it worse. I don't want to be here.
Wow.
And they jump, they die, they overdose, they do all these things because we are not, honestly, I feel like as parents, we have a responsibility, particularly women. I feel like we have a responsibility to teach our children who they are, as a people, build some tools and, give them a foundation that instills self-love and self-acceptance, and let them know they're beautiful just the way they are, And so mental health is a big piece, and that's what we focus on also at My Skin Global. Our work is founded around a tool, an educational curriculum that covers all these pieces, colorism, mental health is front and center of this colorism, of this curriculum, the science of the skin, peer pressure, self-love and self-acceptance, and also like the historical aspect of colorism that made us believe that we are lesser of human being, that if you're darker and you're not worthy.
Yeah, you can achieve things better when you understand how they work and why they've happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's very shocking to see that, because some women that I've seen have done skin bleaching, the little dark knuckles and all that, it makes them look like rotten bananas.
Yeah.
Literally.
I mean,
they literally look like rotten bananas.
So they used to do, just use creams on their faces.
Yeah.
And you find their ears, their neck, the back of their neck, the knuckles, everything just looks different.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the more dangerous aspect of this mess, this epidemic, is they're using injectables to lighten the whole body.
Wow.
And what that is doing, is destroying the organs.
Yes.
And it's also women who are using it when they're pregnant.
Mm.
Mm.
What does that do?
Deformity of
Really?
unborn babies, and also a lot of miscarriages that are happening. If you're not deformed, most of them are deformed. Most of them are having miscarriages, and most of them are dying in childbirth. But the data is not coming out. And now you hear these stories. This is my work, so I talk to people. Majority of the people don't want to be on the camera. They don't want to talk about it, because of the mega billion-dollar industries that is, again, even though these countries have put bans on them, the production of these chemicals continue to happen. And so European companies are producing these chemicals and pouring it in our black markets. Just like all those wigs and, hair chemicals and all those things that continue to fill the markets of, African countries. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered everything today so far. On skin bleaching, that was very informative, especially for people that don't know anything about the issue. And it is not limited to Africa. It's in Latin America. It's in the United States.
Yes.
I think it's probably just the worst here, correct?
Well, actually, no, it's not worse. Well, we don't know because a lot of data is not coming out.
Yeah, it's under the table. So
but it's a global, like I said, I call it a global epidemic, and it's a $32 billion industry on a global scale. So in Africa, 77% of Ghanaian women are enhancing their skin color.
77.
77%. 75% is Senegal. In Togo, it's about, it was reported, I didn't find the exact data for recent. It was like 2015 when it was like, 57%. In Asia, it's 60%.
I've seen
Asian women want to be whiter than white people themselves.
Yes, they want to be, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Excessively
in
white.
India, because of the caste systems, every 75 cents of each dollar goes to skin bleaching.
In India?
In India.
Really?
So permanent blindness is coming up a lot in India. Yes. Back home in the US, like there was a woman in Minnesota that was followed for 2 years because she started feeling pains in her body, and they tested her for all sorts of things. They couldn't find anything. And so they started investigating her home because her children was also starting to feel the same kind of impact. Her eyes will itch, her joints were hurting. And literally on the mark of the 2-year period, they found this bottle in her bathroom. And it had like 2,000 plus, mLs or whatever of mercury. And what that did it not only permanently blind her, she'll never see again. Her children had also started being affected because mercury evaporates in the air. And so to you, like as an adult, if you've done, at least hopefully you've done your research, and you feel like you're having an informed decision when you decide to bleach your skin. But what about those innocent lives, man?
Yeah. Was she brought to justice?
I mean, she didn't know, because the question is, were those companies brought into justice? No.
Well,
but what it did is that it got the U.S., I believe in 2017, started the FDA they started investigating the impact of skin bleaching to the overall health. So that's good. As in, like, that's one of your questions. It's like, what are countries actually doing about it? Are they doing anything about it? I feel like some governments are actually starting to be aware of what's happening, to actually put some measures in place. But they still got to be some high level interest in advocacy and education and collaborative, approaches whereby we partner, one country at a time, global. For me, I seek global partnerships with women leaders of the world to be the voice for change. And I see, the impact stage being within young people. I feel like if we can give our young people a good foundation of who they are, then we are actually building to a better generation.
You know what? I told you about our organization we started. This is just an idea I've gotten during this interview, the Emotional Village Plaza, UVP, where we're collaborating our businesses and our financial interests in different countries, starting in Kenya.
Yeah.
Starting for Black Americans, but of course it's for the Black diaspora. And I think it would be really, really beneficial to a lot of people if we had sectors where you have a chance to re-educate people that may have an interest or that don't know, that they're ignorant to how detrimental this is to society and themselves. I think it'd be very beneficial.
I would love that. I mean, I honestly feel like this is not only my calling, because again, I am of an African descent. Yes, I'm Rwandan American, but I'm African first, and whether you believe it or not, we're all African. And I'm raising a Black girl, who, because of those stories she was told at that one time, she started wondering, Mom, can I have my hair straight? So I'll blow dry the hair. We're not going to put chemicals, honey. Look at Mama's hair. Look at this. It's like, Mom, am I beautiful? Every single thing that happened, is it because I'm Black? Is it because I'm Black? Is it because I'm Black? So we have a lot of work to do. We really have a lot of work to do. Say yes. I would love to talk to anyone who is interested in talking. We do a lot of work in schools, in community, doing economic empowerment of women and girls and bringing this issue to the surface. I partner with, human rights organizations. I honestly feel like this conversation ought to be at the UNESCO, the World Platform, because it's a global epidemic. And I feel like mothers and fathers alike ought to take a responsibility in instilling self-love and self-acceptance in their own children. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate you coming today to do this interview. If you wouldn't mind telling everybody exactly where they could find you at if they've liked what you said today and they were interested in speaking with you directly.
Sure thing. So you can find me at www.myskingglobal.com. It's our website, and our social media handles are on there. You can also email me if you like at info@myskingglobal.com. And again, all that information is on the website. You can share your story. You can take action. Join the movement for skin positivity.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.